What if I told you that in just 90 days, you could evolve into a version of yourself that's utterly transformed, not merely in how the world perceives you, but in the profound way you perceive your own existence? Not as some abstract concept lingering on the horizon or a promise deferred to a vague future, but commencing right here, in this precise instant, enveloped by the very struggles, uncertainties, and unspoken weights that define your current reality. The unvarnished truth is this: you don't require the turn of a calendar page, a dramatic career pivot, or the spark of a fresh romance to initiate this rebirth. What you truly need is singular and potent, a burst of unyielding, radical authenticity. That pivotal moment where you dismantle the facade of a life you've long outgrown and begin meticulously constructing the one that resonates with your deepest potential. There's an profound, almost timeless stoicism woven into this form of personal revolution. It's understated, firmly anchored in reality, and resilient beyond measure. It shuns the clamor of trends and the allure of superficial dazzle. Instead, it thrives on steadfast discipline, unwavering clarity, and a reimagined core identity. In the expanse of the next hour or so, we'll meticulously unpack the blueprint for this inner-to-outer rebranding, delving into the art of cultivating micro-habits that fundamentally rewire your neural pathways, exploring strategies for a holistic glow-up that reshapes not only external impressions but your intrinsic self-regard in enduring ways, and drawing from ancient wisdom to modern insights to ensure every step is grounded and actionable. If you've ever felt ensnared within the echoes of a past self, if you've been quietly awaiting a catalyst to reignite your path forward, let this be that undeniable prompt. And if you're poised to swap fleeting comforts for penetrating insights, scattered distractions for ironclad resolve, and empty noise for profound significance, then immerse yourself fully in this exploration. Join us as we navigate the terrain of becoming someone who greets their reflection with unshakable pride. Let's set forth on this transformative odyssey. So many of us linger in anticipation of that elusive spark, a thunderous wave of motivation crashing in to propel us toward change. Yet, that's a fundamental misconception. Genuine transformation doesn't erupt from ephemeral inspirations, it emerges from a deliberate, often uncomfortable confrontation. It's that serene yet piercing interval where you cease the intricate web of self-deception and gaze unflinchingly at the totality of your life, not cherry-picking the accolades you broadcast or the curated highlights shared with the world, but venturing into those dim, neglected recesses that pulse with quiet pain once the veil of busyness lifts. We each carry intricate narratives about our identity, and all too often, these stories are antiquated relics, handed down from earlier chapters, offering a false sense of security while subtly erecting walls that confine us to selves we've evolved beyond. Overhauling your existence isn't achieved through mere cosmetic tweaks or superficial adornments. It demands a rigorous, unflinching audit, a level of raw honesty that intimidates the masses. But you possess the readiness for it. Your very engagement here attests to that inner resolve. Begin by interrogating yourself with these probing questions. What realities are you willfully overlooking? What burdens do you shoulder simply because they've become second nature? Consider the subtle energy leaks from certain interactions, the habit of articulating dreams far more frequently than pursuing them, or that creeping unease that settles in during still moments, hastily buried under streams of digital content or mindless tasks. These aren't insignificant footnotes, they're vital signals, internal beacons flashing warnings from your deeper self. Ignoring these cues doesn't dissolve them, it merely defers the inevitable upheaval. You aren't in need of more chronological leeway, what you crave is unadulterated truth. Echoing the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. Adopt this perspective. Eschew defensiveness and rationalizations in favor of an insatiable quest for what's authentic. It's from this fertile ground of veracity that authentic growth can truly take root and flourish. Conventional advice often pushes you toward envisioning grand futures, dream expansively, document lofty goals, curate visual boards brimming with aspirations. But what utility lies in a vision constructed atop a foundation of denial? If the bedrock is compromised, no amount of aesthetic allure in your plans will prevent eventual collapse. Therefore, initiate with a comprehensive audit. Divide your reflections into 3 elemental categories. What aspects are genuinely functioning in your favor? What elements are actively sabotaging your progress? And what specific alterations must be enacted, not in some hypothetical realm, but in the tangible now? Resist the urge to complicate or embellish, keep it stark and direct. Pinpoint the routines that leave you hollowed out, the decisions that lead to dead ends, the recurring patterns that masquerade as comfort yet sow seeds of regret. Change cannot grasp hold of what remains unnamed and unacknowledged. This process isn't about self-punishment or harsh critique, it's about halting the cycle of evasion and confronting the glaringly obvious with courage. True growth doesn't involve tearing yourself asunder, it means extending the courtesy of truth to yourself and then mobilizing that insight into decisive action. The moment you relinquish the defense of outdated chapters, you liberate energy to design forthcoming ones. And those emerging narratives require your unclouded vision, not an unattainable perfection, but a grounded realism. The habits you've shed aren't indictments of past failures, they're testaments to your ongoing evolution. The relationships that now drain rather than replenish, they're not indictments of those individuals, but simply obsolete reflections mirroring a self that no longer aligns with your trajectory. The once vibrant dreams that now ring empty, that's not bewilderment clouding your path, it's emerging clarity slicing through the accumulated fog. Pause to reflect on the exhaustive energy demanded by pretense, upholding a life that appears adequate externally while it quietly corrodes from within. Imagine redirecting that vitality toward erecting something resilient and authentic. As Carl Jung insightfully noted, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This principle illuminates why this introspective work is indispensable. Every excuse uttered as a rehearsal for perpetuating the status quo, whereas each uncomfortable truth embraced opens a portal to untapped possibilities, provided you cease your own obstructions. This audit isn't a fleeting exercise to check off, it's an evolving lifestyle, a disciplined return to authenticity, especially amid inconvenience or when it exacts a toll on your ease. It's in these crucibles that authentic strength is tempered, not amid luxury, but through raw exposure to reality. You'll recognize you're on the right track when there's a subtle sting, a sensation of stepping forth unarmored, vulnerable, and adrift in uncertainty. That's not a sign of weakness, it's the hallmark of profound honesty, a rarity in our world. It signifies you've cast aside the crutches of half-truths and numbing rituals. This foundational step, the audit itself, serves as the gateway through which all subsequent transformations must pass. Honor it with gravity, proceed deliberately, and if discomfort arises, embrace it fully. Let that ache resonate, it's not a penalty but invaluable data, a compass guiding you toward renewal. It's the inception of a fresh covenant with your inner self, one predicated on lucidity rather than complacency. You don't need an influx of motivation, What you require is a reduction in avoidance, a dialing down of external noise, a cessation of performative living. The transformative pivot occurs precisely when you stop fleeing from the truths you've long intuited. That's the catalyst for shifts, not in the spotlight of external validation, but in the privacy of your own evolution, not when crowds cheer, but when you stand before your mirror and declare, "I'm ready," not to perform for others, not to seek approval, but to authentically become. And in that declaration lies the true origin of metamorphosis. To deepen our exploration of this audit process, let's visualize it in practice. Envision yourself seated in a quiet space, armed with a notebook or digital tool, sketching out those 3 columns. Under "What's Working," catalog the elements that genuinely infuse you with vitality, perhaps a ritual of morning journaling that steadies your thoughts, a creative outlet like sketching that reignites your passion, or connections that elevate you without extracting undue energy. Be granular. Instead of a vague fitness, specify that evening yoga flow that melts away the day's tension and fosters inner peace. Shifting to "What's Not," this is where the raw edge of honesty tests your mettle. Document the nocturnal habits like endless social media scrolls that rob you of restorative sleep, the professional obligations that feel like they're eroding your spirit bit by bit, or the social circles where dialogues perpetually cycle through complaints and stagnation. Strip away any softening language, articulate it in its unfiltered form to harness its power. Finally, the "What Has to Change" column transforms insight into momentum with concrete, executable steps. If chronic procrastination is your foe, commit to adopting a 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. If physical clutter mirrors mental chaos, pledge to tackle 1 drawer daily, discarding what no longer serves. This isn't about overwhelming overhauls, it's about incremental, sustainable shifts. This exercise might consume an entire evening, or you could parcel it across several days to allow reflections to percolate. Revisit and refine it weekly in the initial phases, as fresh perspectives emerge with time. To illustrate its impact, consider a story from someone I know, a professional bogged down by the monotony of office politics. Through auditing, they discovered their working list included forgotten passions like photography. The not column highlighted draining commutes and unfulfilling meetings, the changes. Carving out dedicated time for creative pursuits and negotiating remote work days. Over months, this sparked a side venture in freelance photography that blossomed into a fulfilling career pivot. Such narratives underscore that the audit transcends mere listing, it's a dynamic launchpad for reinvention. Layering in an emotional dimension elevates this further. Beyond surface behaviors, inventory your feelings, trace sources of resentment to unfulfilled expectations, dissect anxiety's roots in lingering fears. Drawing from Stoic teachings, like Epictetus, emphasis on discerning controllables from uncontrollables, apply this lens, focus your energy on responses rather than external chaos. This enriches the audit, evolving it from a checklist into a deeply introspective conversation with yourself. As you engage repeatedly, anticipate resistance, that's the frontier of expansion. Lean into it, document the internal pushback in a side journal. Why does acknowledging a toxic dynamic sting so sharply? Often, it's rooted in dread of isolation or change, but naming and facing that fear is liberating. With consistent practice, this becomes an intuitive skill, a mental faculty that grows robust through repetition, empowering you to navigate life's complexities with greater agility. Building upon this inner groundwork, acknowledge that profound change frequently manifests first in your external world, which in turn reverberates inwardly. Take a moment to truly survey your immediate environment. Your physical surroundings are a direct echo of your mental landscape, the haphazard piles of documents representing deferred decisions, the wardrobe bulging with garments from bygone eras clinging to outdated identities, the shelves laden with items that once promised inspiration but now collect dust like forgotten dreams. This goes far beyond trendy minimalism or aesthetic pursuits. It's about systematically eliminating ambient distractions to attune more finely to your inner voice. When you permit disorder to persist in your space, you inadvertently normalize it within your psyche, gradually molding yourself into someone perpetually tethered to historical baggage rather than striding toward future possibilities. Every object in your domain either advances your journey or subtly impedes it, and the stark reality is that much of what occupies your space was introduced by a previous iteration of you, one with differing priorities, pains, and perceptual blind spots. Initially, the connection might elude you, but each item retained out of guilt or inertia, every cluttered browser tab, every overflowing drawer of miscellany, whispers a subconscious message: we're not quite prepared to advance. As Seneca wisely observed, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and clutter masterfully exploits this by inflating a sense of overwhelm through accumulated indecision. A closet crammed with seldom worn clothes presents as abundance but is truly evasion. A kitchen stocked with expired or ignored provisions feigns preparedness but serves as mere diversion. That stack of unread books. It's not untapped knowledge, it's guilt accumulating like sediment. This purging isn't about embracing monastic austerity, it's a ceremonial act of respecting your past self's efforts while clearing the path for your emerging identity. When you commence releasing these physical anchors, a remarkable shift unfolds. Your mental chatter subsides, your decision-making sharpens, and your daily rhythm gains a sense of expansiveness. You discover that becoming more doesn't demand acquiring more, it requires curating less of what desensitizes you, less of what procrastinates your progress, less of what perpetuates the narrative of your former self that you're diligently transcending. The key is intentional curation. Interrogate each possession with, does this propel me forward, or does it anchor me to who I once was? The majority of our accumulations persist not from active utility but from sheer familiarity, transforming what was meant as temporary support into a subtle entrapment. Start small to build momentum. Focus on a single pantry shelf or digital folder, not the entire domain. As physical space opens up, observe the psychological ripple. You begin to internalize that true fulfillment arises from mindful presence, not from material excess. The Stoics champion simplicity not as a form of self-denial but as a pathway to mental acuity. An uncluttered environment breeds a mind capable of enduring hardships, making resolute choices, and fostering creation. Strive not for sterile perfection but for resonant alignment. Dedicate time to one area daily or weekly. In the process, you might rediscover buried treasures, a journal that reignites introspection, open space inviting new habits like meditation. Extend this decluttering ethos to your digital life. Prune email subscriptions that bombard with irrelevance. Refine social media follows to prioritize upliftment over comparison. One individual I recall revamped their cluttered bedroom. Post-purge, sleep quality improved, creativity surged, and a sense of agency returned. They didn't merely tidy, they reclaimed sovereignty over their surroundings. Incorporate reflective rituals into the process. As you sort, pause to contemplate each item's story. express gratitude for its past contribution, then release it with intention. This infuses the act with mindfulness, aligning it with Stoic principles of detachment and presence. Broaden the scope to encompass commitments and subscriptions. Evaluate each recurring drain, cancel those misaligned with your evolving values. It's not just about saving resources, it's about reallocating your finite energy toward what truly nourishes. These seemingly minor adjustments accumulate into profound momentum, broadcasting to your subconscious that stagnation is no longer tolerable. You're in motion, deliberate and forward-bound. To further elongate this section, let's explore common pitfalls in decluttering and how to navigate them. One frequent snag is sentimental attachment. Items tied to memories can feel like severing parts of your history. Counter this by photographing the object before release, preserving the essence without the physical burden. Another is decision fatigue, combated by setting time limits per session, say 15 minutes, to maintain focus without overwhelm. Consider categorizing items: essentials, joys, and maybes. The maybes go into a temporary box, revisit after a month. If unused, they're ripe for donation. This method eases the process, reducing regret. For those with larger spaces, like homes or offices, segment the purge: week 1 for clothing, week 2 for books, and so on. Track progress in a log to celebrate wins, reinforcing positive reinforcement. Incorporate eco-conscious disposal. Donate usable goods, recycle where possible, minimizing waste while amplifying the feel-good factor. Now, transitioning to the realm of physical reinvention, reshaping your body extends well beyond aesthetic concerns. It's a testament to your capacity for commitment, a daily proof that your intentions endure through fluctuations in mood or circumstance. You're not pursuing chiseled perfection or societal ideals. You're gathering irrefutable evidence that your self-promises are binding, that "I will" resonates with lasting power. Your body serves as an honest chronicler of what you've permitted. Each lingering ache from inactivity, every foregone session, each choice driven by impulse rather than intention narrates a tale of disconnection between mind and form. When this rift widens, discipline erodes, and discipline is the glue binding your identity. The actions you take with your body daily are the most authentic portrayal of your becoming, not lofty proclamations, but embodied movement. Dispense with grandiose fitness overhauls, commence with humility. A consistent 15-minute walk, not solely for physical benefits but for cultivating presence amid your thoughts. Intentional hydration, framed as an act of self-nurturance. Prioritizing sleep cycles, recognizing that leadership, of self, or others, falters on exhaustion. These fundamentals, when upheld relentlessly, lay the groundwork for profound self-respect. Every mindful movement, sip, or rest period reinforces the narrative. We honor commitments in the present, not a nebulous future. Over time, this builds an unassailable trust in yourself, the bedrock of authentic confidence, not derived from external affirmations but from the quiet assurance of reliability. As Epictetus counseled, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Articulate your vision, then embody it through action, even prior to full belief. View your body not as a site of punishment but as a collaborative partner, the medium through which your character gains visibility. Building physical resilience isn't just altering contours, it's elevating your personal benchmarks. Each repetition, each beat of effort, casts a ballot for the self you aspire to inhabit. Prioritize consistency over spectacle. The unglamorous, repetitive actions that compound invisibly into transformative results. Others may query your early awakenings, your foregoing of conveniences, your persistence through inclement weather. Let them. This path is yours alone. Jung's warning that unaddressed unconscious patterns manifest as fate applies here. Bodily neglect spirals into fatigue, then irritability, culminating in eroded self-belief. Conversely, attentive care initiates a virtuous cycle. Clarity begets confidence, which fosters self-leadership. To make this tangible, design a personalized routine. Begin days with gentle stretches to symbolize flexibility in life. Incorporate resistance training for metaphorical strength against adversities. Nourish with balanced meals viewed as fuel for your ambitions. Integrate supporting science. Regular activity boosts endorphins for mood elevation, while sustained efforts rewire brain circuits for enhanced willpower. Anecdotally, an acquaintance mired in sedentary habits started with brief daily walks. Within quarters, not only did physical vitality return, but professional assertiveness in relational dynamics improved markedly. Anticipate and strategize for obstacles. On off days, employ compassion. Stoicism advocates non-judgmental resumption rather than self-reproach. Monitor subtle markers of advancement, sustained energy, improved posture, mental sharpness, to sustain motivation. Expand to encompass recovery modalities. Incorporate yoga for mindfulness, nature immersions for restorative calm. This comprehensive view ensures your physical vessel bolsters, rather than hinders, your mental and emotional evolution. Delve into nutritional nuances. Beyond calories, focus on micronutrients for cognitive support, omega-3s for brain health, antioxidants for vitality. Experiment mindfully, tracking how foods influence mood and energy. For those new to fitness, consult basics. Bodyweight exercises like planks for core strength, symbolizing inner stability. Progress gradually to avoid burnout. Address mental barriers. If self-image issues arise, counter with affirmations drawn from your audit. Remind yourself this is reclamation, not correction. Now, mastering your temporal domain. Time transcends monetary value. It's the canvas of your identity, painted stroke by stroke through hourly choices. To unveil your authentic self, examine not your reflection but your schedule. Where you invest moments reveals your true priorities. The majority drift reactively through days, rousing to immediate digital pulls, chasing perceived urgencies at the expense of meaningful pursuits. Incrementally, life overcrowds with superficial tasks that occupy space yet deplete essence. Reclaim by redesigning your timetable. Your potential future resides in how you orchestrate the imminent 24 hours. Scrutinize your calendar. If one exists, does it mirror your declared aspirations, or is it littered with acquiescences born of obligation, routine, or diversion? Asserting dominion over time is a primary gesture of self-honor, not frantic activity, but purposeful direction. An overloaded agenda isn't synonymous with intentional living. Refinement aligns actions with core values, imbuing even tranquil days with potency. Structured planning doesn't constrain, it emancipates. Allocate slots for solitude to reclaim introspection, for physicality to restore vigor, for education to hone your perspective, for undivided execution to yield palpable outcomes. These aren't mere entries, they're pledges, elevating personal development from whim to imperative. Debunk the fallacy that discipline quashes spontaneity, it amplifies it, carving out room for what truly resonates by excising the spuriously pressing. Even brief, focused intervals surpass protracted, fragmented efforts. Marcus Aurelius advised, concentrate on living what can be lived, which means the present, then you can spend the time you have left in tranquility. Apply this. Embody your ideals through deeds, not deliberations. The initial hour post-awakening is sacrosanct. Seize it for self, mobility, meditation, constructive endeavors. Reliability in this sets a proactive cadence for the day. Jung proclaimed, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Disjointed actions splinter selfhood, harmonious schedules integrate it. Lacking drive, leverage the calendar for accountability. When values occupy designated spaces, they morph from abstractions to ingrained behaviors. Weekly introspection. Locate your optimal self within the hours. If obscured, recalibrate gently. One safeguarded segment fosters traction. Disruptions are inevitable. A value-aligned framework serves as an anchor, facilitating swift returns. To enrich this, implement deep work periods for immersion sans interruption. Conclude days with reflective unwinding to process and release. Seasonal overviews ensure long-range congruence, adjust for life's ebbs and flows. Illustrations. A harried executive scheduled brief mindfulness breaks, clarity ensued, curbing burnout. Another dedicated learning blocks, accrued knowledge catalyzed vocational advancements. Invoke memento mori. Awareness of time's finitude spurs judicious use, honoring existence through deliberate allocation. Extend techniques. Utilize time-blocking apps for visualization, Pomodoro for focus bursts. Audit time thieves like unnecessary meetings, reallocating to priorities. For parents or caregivers, integrate flexible buffers, perfection yields to adaptability. Now, elevating your visual presentation. Dismissing appearance as trivial overlooks its profound influence, not vanity, but a conduit for alignment. How you adorn and carry yourself broadcasts a silent manifesto. This is the self I've elected to embody. No extravagant transformations required. Clarity is paramount, a deliberate visual affirmation of your emergence from concealment. Bearing, gaze, maintenance precede verbal expression, shaping interactions and self-perception. Composed presentation cultivates purposeful behavior. It's design, not egotism, deciding you're becoming and infusing even mundane routines with that essence. Opt for streamlined ensembles to streamline choices, symbolic palettes for intent, refreshed styling to symbolize release. These are not superficial, they're foundational anchors for internal evolution. Jung articulated, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Corporeality bridges the intangible to the tangible, where potential materializes. Refinements alter dynamics, eliciting deference, bolstering self-assurance. It's harmony, not hubris. Posture communicates volumes. Erect stance internally fosters confidence. Slouch reinforces retreat. Intention sharpens essence. Embrace minimalism, subdued tones, crisp forms, clearing mental space for substantive living. The cascade. Refined appearance polishes communication, fortifies limits. Daily practice. Attire as if for your aspired self, solo or otherwise. Plato declared, the first and best victory is to conquer self. Mirror encounters conquer inwardly through intentional choices. It's foreshadowing. Garb anticipates future you, acclimating to achievement. Intent. Convey earnestness, claiming deserved space. Deepen with psychology. Colors influence emotions, blues for calm, reds for energy. Textures for tactile comfort. Anecdotes. A style overhaul enhanced an individual's professional presence, unlocking opportunities. Stoic heritage. Modest elegance liberates mind from material distractions. Maintenance routines. Grooming is daily discipline, mirroring inner order. Overcome hesitations. If change feels inauthentic, start subtle, one item at a time. Now, navigating interpersonal evolutions. Certain companions are transitory, suited only for specific legs of your journey. Discerning this isn't ingratitude, it's enlightened awareness. Among reinvention's thorns, outpacing relationships. Those acquainted with your earlier, more pliable self often connect via shared constraints. As you ascend, alignments shift, vibes diverge. They might ridicule emerging habits, probe your determination, attempt regressions, not from spite, but unease. Your advancement reflects their inertia. Not every soul scales with you, that's discernment, not severity. Associates mirror facets to retain or relinquish. Warped reflections necessitate setting aside. Treasure legacies yet disengage. If expansion demands contraction, it's self-desertion. Emotional tugs, remorse, wistfulness, emerge. Query, did they enliven or merely familiarize? Seneca counseled, choose associates who will improve you. Milieu encompasses people. Derision corrodes ambition. Attachment stems from solitude, aversion over stagnation, tolerance, but detachment births void, not barren, but fertile for synergy, superior exchanges, voices propelling upward. Jung on solitude. Its inability to share essentials, not absence of company. Release gently. Faded contacts, unapologetic advancement. Not acrimony, reallocation. Differentiate constructive critique from sabotage, encouragement from envy. Esteem. Exit sans justification, as recalibration. Not all comprehend your restoration, allow their trajectories, forge yours. Departures pave for arrivals, kindred spirits attuned to your frequency. Fidelity. To familiarity or destiny. Opt for the latter. Part with poise. Appreciation without reversion. Enhance with boundary tools. Assertive declines, relational audits. Tails. Severing draining ties, liberated space for nurturing networks. Family nuances. Measured distances, preserving decorum. Cultivate fresh ties. Engage interest-based groups for mutual growth. To embodying publicly. Evolution warrants no endorsements, evolve undefended. Metamorphosis craves valor. Exposed in limbo, where novelties feel awkward, decisions baffle observers. This transitional forge tempers identity, not concealed, but enacted. Pitfall. Delaying for certainty, visibility, consensus. Self-authorize. Behave as the transformed, priming, not pretense. Tolerate misconceptions. Renewal appears contrived to the immobile. Prioritize edification over elucidation. Permit chatter. You recognize your exhaustion with dilution. Live values aloud. Denials to depleters. Articulate expression amid unsteadiness. Shares congruent with direction, steadfast pursuits. Launch endeavors unprepared. Terminate postponement. Imperfection validates. Rehearsal solidifies. Exposure teaches steadfastness, inhabiting your narrative. Leadership. Trailblazing distinction amid sameness. Seneca. Daring precedes ease. Forego clarifications. Progress resolute. Congruent companions detect transformations, vitality, poise. Public emergence. Occupancy, not validation. Cadence trumps oratory. Daily genuineness. Susceptibility. Observed effort reinforces. Augment. Stoic apathy to judgments. Exemplars. Figures who reinvented amid criticism, fortifying resilience. Digital tactics. Authentic postings, metric indifferent. To chronicling. Advancement isn't linear, lulls provoke doubt. Yet, evolutions simmer subtly, traces in mist. Archive. Not for acclaim, but anchoring future reminiscence of traversed expanses. Ledgers, recordings, visuals, missives, candid, imperfect. Recollection wanes, skepticism amplifies, archives refute. Socrates. Self-knowledge is practice. Analyze adaptations, motifs in trials. Presence over polish. Logs. Mundane victories, vulnerabilities, authenticity's core. Inquiries forthcoming. Your chronicle, raw, inspires. Glow. In demeanor, solitary resolves. Self-forged in obscurity, iteration. Archives. Irrefutable testimony. Perspective. Modesty in triumph, vigor in setbacks. Expansion. Thousand unobtrusive selections, concealed. Pathmarks. Entries affirming alteration. Diversify modes. Tracking software, visual timelines. Thematic foci. Appreciations, insights. Lapses. Log for trends, remedies. Venturing deeper into cognitive restructuring. Beyond corporeal, nurture stoic outlooks, daily philosophical affirmations. Engage Enchiridion, contemplate transience. Tiny practices. Thankfulness enumerations, adversity previsualization. Neuroplasticity. Habitual rewiring. Shifts. Alleviating apprehensions through reframing. Refine objectives. Post-examination, smart goals, effort-centric. Periodic assessments, vivid imaginings. Stagnation breaches. Strategy swivels, guidance seeking. Decadal visions. Backward engineering. Collectives. Stoic digital assemblies for camaraderie. Perpetuation. Yearly solitudes for contemplation. In summation. Concealed skirmishes uniquely yours, odyssey for self-lucidity. Endure profoundly, living over proving. Mid-evolution, precisely timed. Pursue additional explorations, gratitude for traversing this stoic voyage.